So when you open up Shotcut for the first time, you should see something like this. And if you haven't worked with the video editor before, a lot of them are very similar. That's why I had some students starting off with Adobe Spark, because it sort of operates the same way in that you build a timeline and you can make modifications. And typically this is your timeline. This is what your ultimate project is going to look like from a graphical form. And then there's somewhere in the interface that shows you the project from a video form. And so that's typically called a program monitor. In this case, we have it as the project monitor. And then you typically have a source monitor. And so it's important for you to know, if you move on to other software projects, that you have this understanding that the source monitor is, the source video is going to be video that you're working with, and the project or the canvas, or it's been called program monitor from old video linear editing, that is what the ultimate project is looking like. That's why they sometimes call it canvas. This particular program has a few similarities to other video editors. That's why I chose it to be used in this class. I'm using an Apple, by the way, so if you don't like Final Cut, you can use it as well. As you notice, you can add filters to projects, but I don't want to get students too involved. So what I want you to do is close up the filters pane, because we won't be using this. You can return to it by just hitting this filters icon up here. So you close that up, and you can close playlist as well. So as you can see, everything gets bigger here, all right? And then you'll need to, anytime you open up a new project, you need to label it to a folder. So you go to, so you click it, and it'll allow you to label it to a specific folder. And I think I have, I don't know where I saved it. I think I just saved it as a project in here. But ultimately, you want to COM208 demo. Every time you open up a new project, you want to make sure you know exactly where all your stuff is. Otherwise, sometimes it gets pitched into a movies folder, sometimes it gets pitched to a download folder, documents folder. So you make sure at all times you know where the destination of your files are going to be. So it's more important to name a folder, and sometimes you can name it by a particular date, and then work from there. And then you hit open. So now, as you can see, it's that's where my project is going to save, and I'm going to call this Shotcut demo. And what's nice here is that automatic is a good option for you this semester. So it sets a default, but what happens is the first file that you add to your project, it's going to save, it's going to make your project fit to that first file. So if some of the files that you have are like one from a DSLR with 24 or 5 frames per second, then it's going to mess it up if you import files from, say, an iPhone or a phone, which might be at 30 frames per second. So just be careful. The first file that you import into your timeline should be something that's typical of the rest of your files, and then eventually the other files will fall into suit. So another good thing is to make sure that you have you don't start with stills. And obviously the first time that you create a project, you just want to save it. Okay, so demo project, save, and that way you can see it up here. You can't see it too well on this. So then you want to, I like to adjust my my controls according to the way that I particularly like it. I'm going to close up this jobs here, this jobs pane. And then you also want to make sure that you have a meter. So this is your audio meter right here. So make sure that's popped up. And you'll see that that'll be a lot more appropriate when we pull in some audio. So now we will need to import a piece of video. And so I want to show, so you open a file. Okay, so open a clip. And I'm going to pull from, of course I'm going to try to find it. And, so I'm going to pull one of the SeaWorld pictures open, even though your first tutorial comes from a different project. So this J&L circle. So I'm going to pull that clip in there, and the music is really, really loud. So that's your video. And so anytime you begin to edit a clip, you'll need to not just, lots of times what students will do is they will automatically just go like this and then cut from there. And it's a sloppy way of editing because you don't get frame specific. So then you're winding up, okay, so how do I do this? And it can get cumbersome. As you can see, this is a long clip, and now you're just kind of, and it doesn't allow for what's going on in the shot to be the most appropriate. So now I'm going to delete this from my timeline. I just literally hit delete. As you notice, now we've got something going on here in your V1. Okay, so so this tells you the recent stuff that you've been working with. So I'm going to open up this J&L circle. And so you want to take the best version of this, and so it's going to be something like this. So what you'll do is hit I for in. It sets an in point. Okay, so hit I for in and let it ride for a little bit. And that's good enough. So as soon as you've hit your the end of the clip that you want to show, hit O. And then you can drag it down to the timeline. Okay. This is called overwrite, so I'm squeezing it back to the beginning. And so now I'm going to be playing my edited clip. So now this is playing my project. Okay, it's playing my project rather than the source. Pop that. And then I'm going to play it from here. And just know that this is the source clip. This is the original clip versus when I hit this, and it'll be just the project clip. Okay, so it's important to understand the difference between source, the source clip, playing it there, because this will just give you one monitor there. And then project is going to show you what your final project looks like. So that's the basic interface. So as you can also notice that we also have the monitors over here. So that shows you what these levels are looking like. Ultimately, your audio should be at about a -6 dB right here. But we'll work with that in a moment. So this is just the basic interface. Just know what you'll have to do just to set up some basic video onto your timeline. We'll work with this a little bit more in a moment.